All right. Let's see here. Welcome to episode 639 of Black Brain. These things, they start just getting like back to back to back. Like, well, no, see, this is the reason why I don't remember the number because earlier today was an open chat, but before then was the sim racing live stream, which failed miserably. So then we had to reorganize the numbers. So that one was 639, but that one, since it's not an actual live stream anymore, this is 639. You get what I mean? So yeah, this is the Sapio-Males Guide to the Galaxy, and yeah, I know I'm live. Uh, um, um, yeah, so we're gonna be talking about the mystic, and this actually um, kind of came up. It kind of sparked a thought. It was from the live stream we did, and Platinum Elite was on the panel, and a young lady had joined. A young lady had joined the panel, and she was kind of like she was asked some questions, um, primarily like personality type, and are you into looks or intelligence and this and that, and then she basically went on to say that um, you know, her Brig or was it Briggs Meyer kind of like personality designation was INJF. I think that's what it's called. You know, she's like an empath, and intuitive, and um, kind of someone who's strong in like in those areas, those senses. More of like um, your limbic senses or your sixth senses. Okay, somebody who has a very sensitive feeling towards those, right? Can really kind of pick up on that stuff. In some regards, those are like elements of being a mystic. So Platinum has said, Complex, that's probably the type of chicks you like, the mystics. All complexity or something. That's what he said. It was funny. And so, I thought about it. I did think about it for a second, and I said, well, it's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Um, what the hell? Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Now, I fancy myself to be a weather watcher. Okay, so I'm the type of person who, just like a few minutes ago, before I came inside, I was outside, and we're having like this high wind advisories right now, and then there's supposed to be some storm to be dumping some water over us here, not shortly. And so, as a kid, I've always grown up weather watching. Like I just get out and just look up at the sky, like trace like what direction the clouds are going in, right? And what birds are doing, what animals are doing, all types of stuff. It's kind of like so you can kind of get finer attuned to your environment. Um, from what I understand, there was it's kind of like the science of geomancy, right? Kind of like a form of mysticism that I could even say that I sort of inherently practiced, like or unconsciously practiced. It was just more of an intuitive thing to sort of read the weather to get a better feel of my environment. So, in that regard, there's nothing wrong. I don't think anyway. Um, with that sort of element or an aspect of a person, being expressed, particularly uh, in a in a woman or in the opposite gender. So for example, you know, crystals. Crystals are typically used for like healing, stuff like that, right? And that is where you typically will find like a natural draw of like women who are kind of like okay, what you'll find is that women who are very feminine tend to be also the types that are really drawn to like crystals and you know and all that type of stuff, right? Because crystals have healing properties. You can even just Google crystal healing chart, right? And then amethyst and rose quartz, and it'll have all these crystals, and then it'll tell you what the healing properties of all of them are. And so, um, with women being nurturers, and, natural nurturers and healers, they're going to typically have uh, if they're in that natural disposition, they'll have like a natural disposition to things like crystals, flowers, things that are of nature that heal. Okay, that's more of a natural extension. It's more of an intuitive extension brought outward, right? Um, Much like men go and will break down metals, and throw them into a vat of fire, melt them down, smelt them, and come up with different variances of them, different uses, applications, alloys and all that kind of stuff, right? So what I'm getting at is this is us using our higher faculties. That's what that's an actual expression of our higher faculties, right? That's why. So to kind of draw it back to that comment that he made, yeah, it's not exactly a bad thing. I actually do kind of prefer. Um, I actually do kind of prefer that. Even though my wife had a master's degree and was an educator and all that, um, she also had a tarot deck and dream catchers and shit like that too. Right. So when she was away from career, she was kind of into her woman feminine thing, right? Doing the woman feminine thing with crystals and tarot decks and dream catchers and all that. But then her career choice was education too, dealing with children and all that, right? So it's all sort of a makeup. It's kind of like a sum total when you really start to think about it. Like when someone has an outward engage in something that's an outward expression of their spiritual practice, you can say, or their spiritual recognition, you know, engagement of their higher faculties, an actual practice that requires that you engage in your higher faculties, not a bad thing. Again, I would say, well, that's a sign of intelligence. Like, I don't know not so smart people who do these types of things, but I could be wrong, right? But the typical observation here is that someone is dealing with like their higher faculties when they're engaging in these types of things. Like I said, like women who are typically identified as like mystics, empaths, intuitives, stuff like that, are usually dealing with things like tarot, crystals, scrying, dream catchers, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't take that as a bad quality, right? I really don't. I don't take that as a bad quality. Actually, I kind of get off on like um like, like someone who could do like a really good uh tarot reading, right? And I typically find that women are extremely good at it. Um, Now I'm not into like the whole sort of like okay, there's a limit. Like I said, like my wife, like she had a career and all that, but then like, and how to I guess how to get in touch with her intuitive side. This is what she engaged in, right? And those are things that she would do like on a Saturday, like on a Saturday afternoon. I'd see her and she just kind of have her deck out. Sometimes she'd just be sitting at a table with her deck out. I don't know, and there'd be interesting things she would tell me about that stuff. That's another reason why I'm like, well, pause. I think that's interesting. In all actuality, I think that's pretty interesting. If you know, if we kind of engage in that as a practice, and I'm not even saying like where they're just gone full on, oh, I'm a witch. It's like, okay, pause. We didn't say that. We're not going that far. We're not going that far, right? We're not talking about witches. We're just talking about um, engaging in activities that directly reflect an engagement with the higher faculties. So that's where the notion or the idea of the mystic comes in. So, and um, like I said, I always kind of saw it as like a natural extension. I always saw it as an extension of that. Um, so yeah, it's also kind of interesting where I think nowadays, what you don't find is that you know, uh, this goes for both men and women, but I'm a male, so I can give my observation of this as a male, like of the opposite gender. However, like I always say, take what I'm saying and then flip it, and then it'll apply to the other side, right? But I you know you, I don't I noticed that like at least like when I was younger, it seemed like women were more into things like gardening and flowers and shit, for example, right? That's what it seemed like. This is an observation. They were into more like the crystals and, like I said, like uh, getting like readings. It seemed like there was not too long ago before really just social media just dominated our lives. Um, that was more of the order of the day because you didn't have social media as a replacement, right? And so it seems like nowadays what you have is instead of like the interest in gardening and flowers and all that type of stuff, it's more like it's like chicks are more like interested in just getting ripped, like CrossFit. You know what I mean? And doing those mud runs, doing the parkour, and you just see people just running like just jumping over just jumping off buildings and shit. Like so they're more into that kind of shit. you know. Um uh and then not so much that other stuff. And so that's where I say, well, if I had to compare and contrast, I would prefer that they actually be into like the crystals and the tarot decks and charms, and I would prefer that. I think that, right, as opposed to like, you know, uh do reps with me on the bench press. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Yeah, I'm not I don't really see that being a natural extension of femininity as opposed to say uh you know activities that really do engage the the higher feminine intuition and higher feminine faculties. I think that's something to well, as men anyway, that's something to consider, right? It kind of lets you know that there's a different part of the brain that's also working. You know what I mean? Like like there's a part of the brain that does kind of deal away from like binary constructs, right? And deals again more with higher aspects, higher principles. Like so, for example, let's take like tarot for example. You really can't make logical sense of it, right? You have to make like interpretive sense. So you're going to be using a different area of the brain, right, to do that. It's not binary. It's right. It's not like a intellect based thing. However, it does require intellect, right, to interpret. So we got more gears moving with the mind. Um, so that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Let's see. Okay, I've been rambling here for about 15 minutes here, and yeah, I guess everything's working right. I think what's going on here is that there's just tons of other live streams going on right now, and no one cares about the brain trust, which is it's okay. It's okay. Um, I was kind of feeling like I wasn't gonna feel like doing this later tonight. I wasn't gonna feel like doing this later tonight, so I just said, you know what, just do it earlier, and then you'll probably be done. Well, you will be done earlier, and then you don't have to worry about it. So whoever falls through, falls through. Whoever doesn't, doesn't. It's all good. Catch the playback. So, um, so yeah. And like I said, there's also the other side of the coin, right? There's men. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, salute. Hey, what's going on, you guys? Or two of you. What's going on, Sir Obadiah, JBA? Yeah, okay. I see you guys there. Yeah, I was just rambling. Like I said, I just get to talking, man. I'll put like thoughts together in my head prior to me coming in here to go, and then I'll just let the thoughts just drain out. So that's what happens. Um, so there's the other side of the coin. Like I was saying, um, I kind of grew up kind of like practicing geomancy without knowing it. Okay. I was just basically weather watcher, right? Weather watcher when I was in school, when I learned about longitude and latitude lines, you know what I mean? Like longitude, latitude lines, like, and then like ley lines and energy grids. Okay, weather patterns. Okay, all that stuff kind of interacts and interplays, right? Um, then you got like the magnetic poles. You got so I started learning how like all these things sort of intrinsically work together, but it wasn't because I was studying to be a geologist. It was just because I would just go outside, man. I would just be standing outside looking like, even like earlier today, I was like, man, what the fuck? Like, where does wind come from? And so I spent a good part of the day out, just outside, like at random times of the day, just kind of like gauging the wind. Like when I went out earlier this morning, it was windy, but it wasn't as cold as it was the day before, right? So I'm like, okay, so we've got like we've got a high pressure system coming in, so that's what's bringing in the clouds and all that. So this is going to be more of like a warmer weather system that's going to be coming in, because I could tell the temperature difference, right? On top of that, when you get a lot of static charge built up, because when you get, especially in the area where I live, because I live out like kind of like in agricultural area, so there's a lot of orchards, kind of like almond orchards, and like melons and all this type of shit being grown out here. So what'll happen is that when it gets really windy, you'll get a lot of dust getting blown up, and what the dust does is it actually charges the air, because you have particles in the air that are basically colliding with each other, and it charges the air. So then what you do, you start walking around, you start touching shit, and pop, getting shocked and everything. So that's another way of really just kind of like attuning yourself to the environment, right? Where you start feeling the static charges around you, but then you can correlate it to the high winds and all the dust in the air, and you're like, oh, okay, it's just charging up the air. That's why I'm shocking every goddamn thing, you know. Um, so, but that before it became sort of like a known science, like geology and all this type of stuff, it was more of like a mystical science called geomancy, right? And what they would do is anthropomorphize, like, say, the wind, right? And then they would say there's some sort of god, you know, pushing all of this stuff and making it all move around and all this stuff. So there was a bit of, I guess you could say, sort of natural mysticism just in weather watching, right? And so, and then over time, it just really just became a thing where, you know, I can just go outside and just look up and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna probably have rain in like a day or two, or like if I know the rain is coming within, say, like 3 hours, because I can literally smell it. I don't know if you guys can smell precipitation, but I can literally smell when there's rain in the air or water in the air. You know, so as a male, I would say that that is, um, I can confirm that as a practiced, or I can say that that's a mystic. Uh, I guess you could say that's an aspect of myself, right? That I can say is in that realm of, say, a mystic. You know, really just kind of me observing and be able to like read weather, you know, and look at what birds are doing. I'm a bird watcher too. That's the other thing. I'm always looking up. So it's like, it's always like clouds, weather, and birds. You know what I mean? I've never been like well, I'm an earth person too. I do gardening, but I've always been a person to be looking up all the damn time. So the question then becomes, um, and I don't think there are any women in the chat or listening or anything like that. So on the playback, the question, this is just for the playback. The question becomes, um, are those things that you pick up in terms of like attributes, right? Do you see those type of attributes or characteristics or qualities in the opposite gender? That's a question I'm posing to women, right? Because I was talking about, like, from my perspective, tarot decks, crystals, you know, flowers, charms, um, hell, jewelry, even jewelry. Okay. Um, I would say that what I here's one observation that I've had. Okay, there's only certain type of women who can wear like either like turquoise or sterling silver. That shit does not fit on every woman. Okay, and the women that I do notice that does it does sort of align or attune with, or women that have more of a like a more of a higher feminine sense, more of a graceful position, right? Sterling silver. What's that shit? Um, Lois Hill jewelry. Okay, like that's the shit I used to get my wife. Okay, not every woman can wear that shit. Like, dead ass, not every woman can wear that shit. That shit does not look good on every woman. Okay, but it is some dope. Let me see if I can look it up. Here, let me look it up. And you guys don't mind like the jazz in the background, do you? Let's see here. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, this is the stuff I used to get her. And this will be the stuff I start getting my daughter too when she like 13. I'm gonna start getting her, because I buy her like other stuff. I've gotten her some. She like, she'll lose that shit. And then like this Lois Hill stuff ain't cheap. You know, that stuff ain't cheap, man. But I'm gonna start getting it for my daughter when she turns 13. I'm gonna like buy her like it'll be like I guess like birthday and Christmas, like twice a year. You know, she'll get a piece or something like that. I don't know. I'm gonna think about it. Or just like depending on the cost, man, it might just have to be like her birthday, because she already wants a whole bunch of other stuff. So, um, wait, where was I think I lost my point? Oh yeah. So, um, yeah, it becomes a thing of the question for women: do they see that in men? And I'm not. And again, I'm not trying to like talk about like uh you know don't take this the wrong way, but like onks and all that shit. I'm not talking about that stuff. Like I'm talking just more of like in a practical, right? More of like in a practical, like see. So for example, when I say more of in a practical, in a, so um, my ability to read weather can help a lot. Like let's just say if I go out into the go hiking or some shit, you know, I can just kind of if I detect like a temperature drop, like and look up and see something coming in from the west, it's like, oh, shit, we need to go. We need to get out of here. You know what I mean? So there's practical application. You know what I mean? Okay, another example. If you're one who like, let's just say if you're an outdoorsman. Now I'm not an outdoorsman as in terms of like a hunter and all that, but I do outdoor stuff. So fishing, I learned from my uncle, to fish according to the moon phase. That's you go according to the moon phase. I'll tell you when, like, more fish are more prone to bite. Like certain, like if you're in a full moon phase, go fishing at night. You know, because there's more light being shown on the lake. That means there's more light in the water, so the fish can see the food. So they tend to eat more at night. So then you go fish during the day during a full moon phase, and you ain't catching nothing because the fish are fed. They ate. you know, this is how like my uncle used to break down like nature happenings and how it reflects what's going on when you're sitting there like next to the lake, and those days where the fish are just biting like a motherfucker, right? And then there's those days where you just can't get a bite, and you're like, well, why on some days that they want to eat, and on other days they don't. You know, before you know science had underwater cameras and all this other kind of shit. It was literally through cycles of observation that we out in the environment learned the traits and characteristics of nature, right? And this was all during with a higher sense of observation. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, you had to have like allow cycles to happen a few times to make the connection between why fish would want to feed during a full moon period versus when they don't. Like you had to go through that cycle enough times before the light bulb went off. Like, oh, you know what? This is why they're not doing it. you know, So there's practical application, right? It's practical application. Like I said, when my wife, she wasn't like just like I said, like head wrapped in a crystal ball and all that. No, that's not what she would do. But there'd be some days, man, I just walk into the living room or something, and she's just sitting there at the table, cross-legged like she'd be, and then she'd just be doing the little tarot deck thing, and I would just, I would like joke. I'd be like, "Oh, you trying to figure out if I'm cheating on you or something?" you know, you know, and like it was cool because like I knew the nature of I knew like I knew the nature of our relationships, right? So when she would do these tarot readings, they were never anything. They were never anything like bad. because usually she always had like it was very sort of like attentive. It was always sort of very attentive about her, or her questions and stuff like, okay, um, you know, I'm thinking about doing this. Spirit, guide me, blah 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 blah. She had this thing that she was saying they should do, and then I'm like, okay, so what are all these cards saying? Well, this is the Hierophant card, and this is this and this. So what this is saying, and this and this and this, and then I would like listen to her interpret it. And I'm like, huh, interesting. That actually makes a lot of sense. So I actually, I mean, it's not like I'm gonna ask her to like pull the tarot deck out and ask her for some stock tips, but it's an interesting way to engage in your higher faculties, your intuitions. It's I don't know, man. There's intelligence behind that, man. I'm into that shit. I guess in short, I like a chick who can do that kind of shit. Guilty as charged. What's Gucci? Gucci is a high-end fashion brand. No, I'm joking. What's going on, man? What is Gucci? Oh, hey, Paul, what's up, dude? What is the first of the seven hermetic principle? Doesn't matter what a woman is attracted to. It's about you and your esoteric path. The rest takes care of itself. Well, it's not necessarily about, it's not really a matter of what a woman's attracted to. That's really not the angle I was taking on this. This is just more about. Well, the thing is, this is actually it was okay. So the topic was sparked from another conversation, Paul. That's what it is. So I actually took a piece out of something that was said. It's probably the fourth time. I thought I was going to be the first. Oh well. Yeah, it's just one of those things, man. Somebody says, "What's Gucci?" And then if you have one of those dry humor minds, you go, "Oh, it's just this high-end fashion brand." Uh, but no, Paul, this is actually born out of a prior conversation, and I wanted to like kind of dig on like just the aspects or qualities of a quote unquote mystic, because it was sort of implied like that's all like fluff and it's like a bad thing or something. And I'm like, oh no, not necessarily. No, no, no. And like I said, it's like it's not even like a woman thing. That's why I was like, okay, well, I look at weather watching and geomancy and shit as a form of mysticism, and I've been doing it since I was a kid. So it's more of about engaging in our higher intuitive faculties. That's really more of the topic, not particularly women. No, no, not that's not really it. Well, this one looks like it'll be a light one because as per usual, I vomit out for about 30, 35, 40 minutes or so, and it pretty much all gets out. But um, that was something that I did want to touch on because I went back and went and listened to the playback, and I caught that part, and I was like, well, oh no, that's not exactly a bad thing actually. And I gave it more thought, and I said, actually, this is a topic, and I can explore it. Right, I can explore this a bit. So, okay, I was drinking some water, and I put some lime in it, and I think I almost prefer water with lime more than water with lemon. Lime is a little more it's a little more subdued in water. It's like it's there, but it's not. Yeah, yeah. Water with lime is really good, man. You said a true mystic walks the esoteric path. Most people can't have a real conversation about mysticism and the esoteric path. There's one huge reason why you and I have had many talks about why. I get it, but it's worth exploring. I mean, I'm like this. I'll put it out there. Take it or leave it. You know, and I don't know, and I think like it's how do you walk in a digital age? How do you walk an esoteric path? That then me also becomes a question. I mean, we have these ideas of like what that once was, right? The sage who goes off into the hills with just a staff and sits on a hill and contemplates, right? But how realistic is that into the in 2021, right? That's why I said, well, actually, what I prefer is a balanced engagement. That was why I brought up my wife as an example. He said master's degree and all, but would sit there on a Saturday with her tarot deck and crystals and shit. No, energy just transmutes. I mean, it's what it is. I mean, I can say I don't know. I'm not as rigid when it comes to that, Paul. Right? Because I can see esotericism practiced in pretty much just about anything. And it really just depends on your approach to it, how you view the activity and what you're doing. That's how I look at it. I mean, I could look at what I do in karting as just like an activity, or I could do what I do where I'll go in the garage and I just stare at the goddamn thing because there's something that I don't know. I'll stare at it, tear it down, put it together, stare at it. I have my own method of balancing and tuning it. I have my own sort of methodology. Now, it's not like standard manual type, where you go through a book and it's through practice. You know, mysticism is a practice, shamanism is a practice. All these things are practices. So you can have your own sort of uh, esoteric processes, things that you undergo prior to rituals. People do it when they shoot free throws, right? No logical explanation for it. You said no. What technology has to do with it is the acquisition of it. It has a whole lot to do with it. All right. What I know today wasn't because like I became a monk and joined some secret cult. No, it's because like I was downloading like all these like crazy ass books and videos and weird shit off the internet. That's how. Technology had everything to do with it. In my view, the internet is your interface to the Akashic, right? How are you? How is the average person? Well, let's just say at one time you could. I don't know. The internet. There's a whole lot of stuff on the internet you can't access anymore. But that's another subject. But yeah, I think on the topic, in terms of what is really just trying to convey here, I don't think that a person who sort of engages their higher intuitive faculties, right, in some sort of like practice. I don't think that is to be looked at as a bad quality. That's not to be looked at. as a bad quality, right? So, I don't think, again, if a dude is, outdoorsy and, does everything by the farmer's almanac and stuff, that shouldn't be looked at as weird. And, if a woman is having questions about something and decides that, she's going to, pull out a tarot deck and ask the spirit to, give her a clue. I don't exactly think that that's totally weird if you can get some sort of actual. Like I said, I saw her do it a couple of times, and I was just like, "Damn, okay, makes sense." Hey, yeah. You said it's not the same thing, but I understand your point of view. It's not about being a monk. We're not having the same conversation. Well, no, that's why that's the thing, Paul. I don't think we are. That's why, like, I was like, well, I was actually kind of in a different space with it, but no, it's all good. But yeah, yeah, I think I'm pretty much kind of at the end of this one here. So I think you guys may have gotten a feel for what I was trying to get across. If you want to see what it was that I was referencing, it's the open panel one. The we did with Platinum Elite, and it was the young lady that joined the panel and it said that she was an intuitive, and he had made the comment that, hey, that's the kind of chicks you like, huh? The mystic ones. And I said, yeah, kind of. Yeah. But but yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Share it if the topic was of interest. Hit the like button, and we'll check you guys out. Let's see, tomorrow's Thursday. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow. What are we doing? Oh yeah, there's Black Cultural Intelligence live stream scheduled for tomorrow, and then Friday we're going to be doing the Financial Fellowship live stream with Lionel. So Lionel will be back, host the Financial Fellowship live stream, and then Johnny Blaze and I will be doing the Fatherhood live stream on Saturday. I promise. I was doing some computer troubleshooting last Saturday, and then some other stuff happened, and we're not able to get to it. With that, all right, you guys have a good evening. Peace.